So good morning students. Today we are going to discuss about biomolecules. Particularly we are going to deal about carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are nothing but the organic compounds which found abundant in nature. So as you know, all plants and animals can synthesize carbohydrates for particularly so for plants, plants synthesize the carbohydrates via the photosynthesis process by using carbon dioxide plus water. This is the most important reactions in the perspective of plants, but we will discuss about in terms of organic point of view. So you have a carbon dioxide plus water that gives carbohydrate plus oxygen. So this is the most fundamental reactions to synthesize the carbohydrates. Now we are going to discuss about the carbohydrates in organic perspective. So carbohydrates are nothing but hydrates of carbon. As you know, hydrates is nothing but water molecule. Hydrates is nothing but water molecule. So the general molecular formula for carbohydrates, so that is CnH2O(m), where the N represents number of carbon atoms, where M represents number of water molecules. It means the carbon combines with water molecules nothing but hydrates of carbon. That's why this is the general molecular formula for carbohydrate. So empirical formula for this, CH2O, C, that is carbon, H2O. This is the empirical formula for carbohydrates. These are two important. Now we will look at the modern definition for carbohydrate. Modern definition for carbohydrate, it is nothing but polyhydroxy aldehydes or polyhydroxy ketones. So poly means many, you have more than one unit. So polyhydroxy ketones. So this is the modern definition for carbohydrates. For example, for polyhydroxy aldehyde, that is nothing but your glucose. This is the structure of glucose. You have a aldehyde group. So this is OH, this is OH and H and OH and H and OH. So you have a CH2OH. So this is the glucose. It's an example for polyhydroxy aldehyde. So here you have the aldehyde group, you have the OH group. So since it has many OH group, so it's called polyhydroxy aldehyde. So for the example for polyhydroxy ketones, that is nothing but the fructose. Fructose is an example for polyhydroxy ketones. So you have the ketone group. So since you have the OH, so it's called polyhydroxy ketone. This is the name of this compound is D-fructose. So the modern definition is polyhydroxy aldehyde or polyhydroxy ketones are called carbohydrates. This is the example for polyhydroxy aldehyde because it has aldehyde as well as the hydroxy groups. Since in this you have hydroxy as well as ketone, this is called polyhydroxy ketones. Example for this, D-fructose. Now see, this polyhydroxy aldehyde is foundly called aldose. So whereas polyhydroxy ketones are called ketose. Why it is so? Because it contains aldehyde group. That's why this ald poles refer for aldehyde. This OSE, this part refers for sugar. Similarly, you go with this one, ketose. The ket part refers, it contains keto functional group, whereas this OSE refers the sugar. So generally, this called aldose. So for aldose, an example is a glucose. Is another example for aldose because it has aldehyde group, and fructose, it's called ketose because it has a keto functionality in this. So now we are going to classify the carbohydrates. There are two classes of carbohydrates. One is monosaccharides, that is simple sugar. Another one is complex sugar. So there are two classes in carbohydrates. There are two classes in carbohydrate. The first one is called monosaccharides. This is nothing but your simple sugar. The second classification is complex sugar. So monosaccharides means simple sugar, and another definition for this monosaccharides is a carbohydrate which cannot be hydrolyzed further into simple compounds. So as an example for monosaccharides, as we discussed, so glucose and fructose, these are the examples for monosaccharides. Monosaccharides means simple sugar which cannot be further hydrolyzed into simple compounds. So if you have this monosaccharides may contain aldehyde. If this aldehyde presence in monosaccharide, that is nothing but aldose. Just now we have seen. So aldose. So if it is keto group, if it is contained keto group, so this part is called ketose. So for aldose is an example for aldose. So glucose we have discussed now, and example for ketose is fructose. Now we will come to this part, that is complex sugars. Suppose these complex sugars can be a disaccharides or oligosaccharides, or this can be called polysaccharides. So what it means disaccharides? So if two sugar units, two sugar subunits linked together, this is called disaccharides. Or you can say it is, if you hydrolyze this disaccharide, it gives two monosaccharides. If you hydrolyze this, you will get two monosaccharides. That we will discuss it later. Similarly, for oligosaccharides, if you have 3 to 10 monosaccharides, 10 sugar units linked together, that is called oligosaccharides. For polysaccharides, if you have more than 10 sugar units, suppose if you have more than 10 sugar units linked together, that is nothing but polysaccharide. For polysaccharides, example is you have your cellulose, starch. These are example for polysaccharide. For disaccharides, so sucrose, maltose, that we will discuss it later. So first we will go with monosaccharides. Once we complete this one, we will discuss about the complex sugar. First we will discuss about monosaccharides. So monosaccharides can be further classified. Monosaccharides can be further classified so based on number of carbon atoms. Based on number of carbon atoms. Suppose if this monosaccharide has 3 carbon, this is called triose. 3 carbons, this is called triose. If it is contain 4 carbons, it's called tetrose. If monosaccharide contains 5 carbons, it's called pentose. As you know, this OSE means sugar. So if it is contains 6 carbons, so it's called hexose. 7 carbons, if it is contains 7 carbon, it's called heptose. Suppose if this triose contains aldehyde, this is called aldotriose. 3 carbon unit triose. If this contains aldehyde functional group, so this is called aldotriose. This ALD refers aldehyde functional group that is present in triose. Similarly, this can be called ketotriose. It means the keto functional group present in triose. Similarly, you can go with 4 carbon unit. This can be called, if aldehyde group is means, aldotetrose. This is ketotetrose. Similarly, for 5 carbon unit, if it is contain aldehyde, so aldopentose. This is ketopentose. For 6 carbon unit, this is aldohexose. This is ketohexose. For 7 carbon unit, this is aldoheptose, and this is called ketoheptose. So these are the classification of monohydrates based on number of carbon atoms. So if it is 3 carbon, it is a triose. If that monosaccharide contains aldehyde group, that is called aldotriose. Similarly, if it is contain ketones, it's called ketotriose. Similarly, 4 carbon, 5 carbons, and 6 carbons, and 7 carbons. So these are the classification of monosaccharides based on number of carbon atoms. We will see the example for this triose, tetrose, and pentose, hexose. For example, for triose, for aldotriose, so what is mean by aldotriose? It will have aldehyde functional group in that molecule plus 3 carbon unit because it's a triose. So for example, for aldotriose is glyceraldehyde. The basic part of carbohydrate is glyceraldehyde. This I am writing in a Fischer projections. So in Fischer projection is nothing but you have a horizontal as well as vertical lines. So it has 3 carbons, carbon number 1, carbon number 2, carbon number 3. So this is an example for triose. Since it's contain aldehyde functional group, it's called aldotriose. So this is glyceraldehyde. So for example for aldotriose is glyceraldehyde. For ketotriose, so triose means 3 carbons. So example for that, you have a dihydroxyacetone. So this is 1, 2 and 3. So you have 1, 3 dihydroxy ketone is an example for ketotriose because it has 3 carbon plus keto functionality. That's why it's called ketotriose. Example for ketotriose is 1,3 dihydroxy ketone. So this is an example for triose. Now we will see this. What is the relationship between these two? These two are constitutional isomers. Constitutional isomers. These two are constitutional isomers. Next we will look at another example for aldotetrose. Example for aldotetrose is so this is erythrose. Erythrose is an example for aldotetrose because it contains 4 carbons, carbon number 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Since it contains aldehyd functionality, so this is an example for aldotetrose. Name of this one is erythrose. Erythrose means, we have discussed in stereochemistry, the similar groups are same side. So OH and OH, hydrogen and hydrogen, they are in the same side. That's why it's called erythrose. So this is an example for aldotetrose. So suppose aldehyde, the H and OH, OH and H CH2 again is an example for aldotetrose, but name of this one is triose because the same functional group in the opposite, whereas in this case same functional group in the same direction. So this is an example for erythrose, this is an example for triose. Similarly, but our focus will mainly on aldohexose. So example for aldohexose. So example for aldohexose is glucose. Just we have seen that molecule. So this is easy to write. So this is an example for aldohexose. Name of this molecule is glucose. Alright, because this is carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Since it has 6 carbon atom, this is called hexose. Since it contains aldehyde group, this is called aldohexose. For ketohexose, so the most important is fructose. So on this number of carbon atom is 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So since you have a 6 carbon atom, please to understand these projections are called Fischer projection. The line which is crisscross this line, this carbon is here, carbon is there. Here also is a carbon, here also is a carbon, here also is carbon. So this is carbon, carbon, carbon. So it contains 6 carbons. Since it has keto functionality, is an example for ketohexose. Now we are going to give the name, means DL notation. DL notation for carbohydrates. So how do we name this? Generally we have to see the most or the the bottommost asymmetric carbon. See, this is a chiral asymmetric carbon. So this is asymmetric carbon, this is asymmetric carbon, this is asymmetric, means chiral carbon. So number of stereoisomers for glucose, you have the N is 4, N is nothing but number of chiral carbons. So number of stereoisomers is formula 2 power N. So you will get 16 stereoisomers. Whereas in this case, you have a 3 chiral carbon, 1, 2, 3. So the N value is 3. So you will get 2 power 3. So you will get 8 stereoisomer. So they can be asked how many stereoisomers are possible for glucose and fructose. So you have to count number of chiral carbon atom present in that as well as in this. Now we are going to give the DL notation for monosaccharides. So this can be applied for carbohydrate as well as for amino acids. So you have to look at the bottommost chiral carbon. So bottommost chiral carbon is this one. So if this OH group present on the right hand side, so this is called D. If it is present on right hand side, this is called D. So this is name of this one is D-glucose. So in fructose, the last or bottommost chiral center is this one. So you have to look at the OH. Again, it's on the right hand side. So you have to give D. So this is D-fructose. So you have to look at the bottommost asymmetric carbon. If the OH group on the right hand side, you have to give D. If it is in left hand side, you have to give L. For example, suppose you take this one, glyceraldehyde. Am I right? Glyceraldehyde. This is the structure of glyceraldehyde. Since it has only one chiral center, so you have to look at the OH group that is attached to the chiral center. Since it is on the right hand side, it is called D-glyceraldehyde. The most important point. So what is the enantiomer of this one? You just put a mirror, you draw it. So mirror image of this one. So aldehyde. So OH will be in this side and CH2OH and H. So now look at the OH that is attached to the asymmetric carbon. It is in the left hand side. So this is called L-glyceraldehyde. L-glyceraldehyde. So you have to look at the bottommost OH that is attached to the chiral center. If that OH present on the right hand side, it is a D. If it is present on the left hand side, it is L. So since it contains, glyceraldehyde contains only one asymmetric center, that is nothing but chiral center. So maximum you will get 2 stereoisomers. So one is this one, another one is this one. So both are a pair of enantiomers will exist for a single. In this case, you will get, since it contains 4 chiral center, so you will end up with 16 stereoisomers or 8 pair of enantiomer. 8 pair of enantiomers. So always keep in mind. So if you have a D, obviously its mirror image will be L. In this case, D is your D-glyceraldehyde. Its enantiomer is L-glyceraldehyde. For example, for glucose, it's a D-glucose because the bottommost OH on the right hand side. What is the enantiomer for this one? Definitely it would be L-glucose. So you just write the mirror image of this one. So this will be OH and H and OH, H, OH and OH, H and OH, H, CH2O. This is the enantiomer of D-glucose, that is L-glucose. So similarly you can write it for any monosaccharides, their enantiomers, if it is D, their enantiomer will be definitely L. So now Now we will look at the epimers. What does mean by epimers? So epimers, so what it means, epimers is nothing but, so diastereoisomer that differs at only one asymmetric carbon. The diastereomers that differs only at one asymmetric carbon. So the configuration of differs only at only one asymmetric carbon, that is nothing but chiral carbon. For example, you take glucose, this is carbon number 1, see now look at the difference. You have this carbon number 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6. So now you check the difference, you just compare the difference. Only the carbon number 2 you have the configuration is differ, am I right? So in this you have the OH on the right hand side, whereas in this case you have OH on the left hand side. Rest of them are same, just look at the structure. So this is called mannose. This is called, since the OH on the right hand side, it's a D-mannose. So D-mannose is an epimer of C2. We can say the configuration is different, the carbon number 2. That's why it's a C2. D-mannose is a C2 epimer of glucose. Am I right? The only configuration differs at this particular chiral center. That's why it's called C2 epimer of glucose. Similarly, suppose you have this structure, you just look at this structure. By looking at the structure, you can tell whether it's a C2 or C3 or C4 epimers. So this is H and OH. Now CH2OH. Now look at the glucose and this structure. You just see the difference. So this is carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So in the fourth carbon at C4, you will have OH on the right hand side here, whereas this side is the left hand side. So this one and this two are C4 epimers. C4 because the configuration differs at C4 position. So this one, the structure 1 and structure 2 are C4 epimers. So name of this structure is galactose. It's a galactose. So galactose is C4 epimer of glucose. C4 epimer of glucose. So you just you remember this glucose. So based on its epimer you can easily write. No need to remember mannose and galactose. Just remember the structure of glucose. You can able to write the structure of D-mannose as well as D-galactose, because D-mannose is an C2 epimer of D-glucose as well as the D-galactose is a C4 epimer of D-glucose. So this is C2 epimer, this is C4 epimers. So again, epimers are diastereomers. The configuration differs at one particular chiral center. So now we will move to the RS notation for monosaccharides. We will start with the simple one, the triose. Triose, that is nothing but your glyceraldehyde. So H and OH, CH2 OH. So the RS notation for this, so you have to start the chiral center. From that you have to see the higher atomic number. Since this carbon is attached with oxygen, the higher priority goes to oxygen. This we have already discussed in our 11th standard. So this number goes to 2 and this is 3. So you go with higher priority to lower priority. So 1, 2, 3, it goes in the anticlockwise directions. So it's a yes, but you have to look at the hydrogen that is present on the horizontal bonds. Since it present on a horizontal bonds, whatever the configuration it comes, you have to write the opposite configuration. So the glyceraldehyde is R glyceraldehyde. What is the configuration for this? It's a R. Similarly, you can go with this one. This is a OH and H, and this is a CH2OH. So this is an enantiomer of this one, am I right? So you put the mirror image. So this would be definitely S glyceraldehyde because this is an enantiomer, or else you can check it. Just go with this 1, 2 and 3. You go from higher priority to lower priority. So this is the way it leads to clockwise direction. So this is R. You look at the hydrogen, it is present on the horizontal. So whatever configuration comes, you have to write the opposite. Suppose the hydrogen present on the vertical bonds, whatever the configuration it comes, you have to write it as it is. Whereas if the hydrogen present on the horizontal bonds, you have to write the opposite configuration. So this is S glyceraldehyde. This is the way. So R, this is R glyceraldehyde, this is L. So this is nothing but the absolute configurations. Since all the naturally found carbohydrates are that will have the configuration R configuration. Whatever the naturally occurring monosaccharides will have R configuration, their enantiomer will be S. So this is the way you have to give the RS notation for the carbohydrates. So now we will look at another, the most important, that is what is mean by anomeric carbons. So we have discussed about epimers, the most important. Next we are going to discuss about anomeric carbon. So as we discussed in carbonyl compounds, for example, suppose you have a carbonyl group. This is CH2 and CH2, CH2 and CH2OH. Alright. So number starts from 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5. So if we have aldehyde plus alcohol, so one equivalent of alcohol plus one equivalent of aldehyde in the presence of acid, that gives chemiacetal. You might have studied. So this chemiacetal, this is chemiacetal. Am I right? So this is intermolecular reaction. Am I right? This is intermolecular reaction. So what is meant by chemiacetal? If the carbon contains one OH and one OR group, this OR comes from the alcohol part. So if this carbon contains one OH and one OR group, so this carbon is called, this compound is called chemiacetal. Similarly, with this concept we are going to apply in carbohydrates, where suppose we have a intramolecular cyclization of the hydroxycarbonyl compounds. So you have a carbonyl plus alcohol. This leads to intramolecular cyclization, intramolecular reactions. So this OH will attach to this one. Again, this is a carbon, oxygen, CH2, 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 again CH2. So this can be written as, so both are equivalent structures. Okay. Now look at this carbon. This is your chemiacetal carbon, am I right? Chemiacetal carbon. So since it contains 6-membered, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-membered ring plus oxygen. So this 6-membered ring plus 1 oxygen, that is nothing but pyranose. Students, because this structure resembles to pyron. This is the structure of pyron. This is structure of pyron. So that's why we are naming it, because it has 1 oxygen plus 6-membered ring. Similarly, you can find the same structure in this 1 oxygen plus 6-membered ring. So this carbon is a chemiacetal carbon. Similarly, you can name it for carbohydrates. For example, suppose you have in OH, you have many OH, many asymmetric carbon in this. So just I have written in a simplified manner. So you have a OH as well as carbonyl. This leads to oxygen and OH and hydrogen. This OH can be either in the down or it could be in the up. So this is OH and H. So this particular carbon, this chemiacetal carbon, is called anomeric carbon. This is anomeric carbon. So you have in this you have a OH and H and OH. So this hydroxy and this carbonyl undergoes cyclization. This leads to chemiacetal. We know how it's formed by intramolecular cyclization. So this carbon is called anomeric carbon. Again, anomers are as a diastereomers. So they differ at chemiacetal carbon. So the configuration will differ at this chemiacetal carbon. So this carbon can be called as a anomeric carbon. Since this is 6-membered ring plus oxygen, this is called pyranose ring. Suppose if you have a 5-membered ring, if it have 5 members, again this carbon is called chemiacetal carbon. This is called because it resembles to furan, so this is called furanose. So the basic difference is 6-membered ring plus oxygen is called pyranose. 5-membered ring plus oxygen is called furanose. The O's means, as I said, it's a sugar unit. Am I right? So 5-membered plus O, this is called furanose. 6-membered ring plus O is called pyranose ring. Again, this carbon again is called anomeric carbon. So anomeric carbon is nothing but your chemiacetal carbons. So this is the way you would represent the anomeric carbons. Now we will write this our monosaccharides in furanose and pyranose form. For example, glucose. So glucose OH and H OH and OH CH2. So it is a D-glucose because the OH on the right hand side, so it's a D-glucose. So this can be written in pyranose form, just you say that. So you have to write the 6-membered oxygen. So since it's a D-glucose, the CH2OH group should be written on the top of this, because it's a D-glucose or D-sugars. For D-sugars, you have to write the CH2OH on the top. Okay. So whatever the group on the right hand side, you have to write it in the down. Am I right? So this is right hand side. You have this is carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So this is carbon number 1. So this is again your anomeric carbon. This OH could be either on the down or it could be on the up. So OH, H, this is your anomeric carbon. Again this also your anomeric carbon. Now whatever the group that is present on the right hand side, you have to write it in the bottom. So OH that is present on the right hand side, so you have to write that one the bottom. So here OH, and left hand side you have to write what is there, so you have a hydrogen. So again right hand side you have to write it in the bottom, again the OH on the up. Similarly it goes. So OH and H. This is the way you have to write. So this is a pyranose, am I right? Pyranose, because we have derived this one from D-glucose. So D, am I right? Similarly, we can write this one CH2OH and hydrogen. This again OH and H. Again you have H and OH. Again you have OH and H. Again it's a D pyranose. Alright. So only these two are again as a diastereomers, because the configuration differs only at anomeric carbons. Now we are going to give whether it is alpha or beta. So look at the structure. If this CH2OH group and OH both are in trans means opposite. If these two are in opposite, so you have to name it as alpha. This is your alpha anomer. Similarly, you have to look at the CH2OH as well as this OH group that is present on anomeric carbon, or in the same side you have to name it as a beta. So this is your beta anomer, this is your alpha anomers, because these both groups are trans, these both groups are in cis. So if it is trans, alpha, if it is cis, beta. So this can be called alpha because it's a D-glucose. Now this is alpha D, since it has 6-member plus oxygen. So pyranose, this can be called alpha D glucopyranose. Similarly, this can be called alpha D beta D glucopyranose. Now we have discussed in open chain form, you have 4 chiral centers, just 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have a 16 stereoisomers in this. Now look at this, you have a 5 chiral centers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in cyclic form, glucose in cyclic form, it has 5 chiral center, whereas in open chain form, it has 4 chiral center. So again you will get 2 power 5 stereoisomers. Just keep this point. So in open chain form you have 4 chiral center. In cyclic form you have a 5 chiral center, because this anomeric carbon is a chiral carbon. So this CH2OH group and OH group, if it is in opposite direction, that is called alpha, that is alpha anomer. If it is OH and this CH2 group on the same side, it's called beta. So this is the way you have to represent the monosaccharides. For example, if they ask, so we will write for another monosaccharides the alpha as well as the beta anomer of this one. For example, mannose. So what is the relationship between mannose and glucose? They are C2 epimers. So the configuration differs at carbon number 2. So now we will write the structure of mannose. So you have this OH. So in glucose the OH will be this side and hydrogen will be in this side, whereas since it's a C2 epimer, the position of H and OH differ. So this is OH and H, this is H, OH, this is H, CH2. So again, how to write in this? So we have to write the 6-membered ring. So you have to put always the oxygen on the right hand, upper right hand corner. So this is the first step you have to do. Next, you have to see the OH can be either below or the OH can be above. So this is the first you have to do. Since it's a D mannose, so D sugar, so the CH2 OH should be always on the up. Similarly, you have to write CH2OH. So since the CH2OH and OH are in opposite direction, this is your alpha. So again we have, this is, it's a D mannose, so again you have to write it's alpha D. So this is alpha D mannose or mannopyranose. Similarly, this is a beta D isomers. So remaining thing you write. So right hand side whatever is present you have to write it on the down. So this is hydrogen and OH. Again this hydrogen. Again on the other side you have OH. So you have OH and H. So this is the way. Again we can write for the beta. This is your beta anomer. This is your alpha anomer. So for any monosaccharides this can be done. So the writing in 6-membered ring, this projection is called Haworth projection. So this projection is called Fischer projection, whereas writing in 6-membered ring plus oxygen on the right hand corner, it's called Haworth projection. 6-membered ring plus oxygen. It could be 6-membered ring plus oxygen or 5-membered ring plus oxygen. If it is 6-membered ring, as I said, it's a pyranose. 5-membered ring, it is a furanose rings. So this is the way you write. The projection for this is called Haworth projections. So this is your OH and H. So this is OH and H. This is H and OH. So for next we will write another example for how to write this one in Haworth. For example, we will try for galactose. So galactose and glucose are C4 epimers because the configuration differs at only C4 carbon. So this is carbon number 2, this is carbon number 3. So you have OH, this is OH and CH2. So this can be written in Haworth projections. So first step you have to do, you have to put a 6-membered ring plus oxygen. Since it's a OH on the right hand side, it's a D. So name of this monosaccharide is D-galactose. So since it's a D sugar, the CH2OH group will be on the up. So this OH, H. Since these two are in opposite strands, so this is your alpha anomer. So next one is OH group and CH2OH group, both are in the same directions. So this is called your beta. So remaining thing, whatever groups that present on the right hand side, you write it down. Whatever groups present on the right hand side, you write it up. So the second carbon, you have the OH, so you write the down. Similarly, you write this one hydrogen, here hydrogen. So you have H, OH and OH. Similarly, you can write this one H, OH and OH, H and OH. This is the way you have to write. This is again is a higher the precision for alpha anomer of galactose. This is beta anomer of D-galactose. So these structures are important while writing disaccharides as well as in polysaccharides. Now next we are going to discuss about mutar rotation. What it means. Suppose glucose in open chain form. So this is your H, OH, OH, H, H, OH, H, OH, CH2OH. This is acyclic form. Acyclic form. In equilibrium, it will be in a trace amount. So this will always will be in equilibrium with alpha anomer as well as in beta anomer. So this will always present as an equilibrium mixture. So you will have your beta as well as you have your alpha. So this is your beta and this is the alpha anomer. This is CH2OH, remaining thing. This is OH, H, H, OH, OH and H. Similarly, go with this. So this is your OH, H, H, OH. Again you, so this is OH and H. So this is your CH2. So this will be always in equilibrium mixture. So the percentage of beta anomer is always more. So this is 36%, whereas this is in trace amount, whereas the percentage of alpha anomer in the equilibrium mixture is 37. So this alpha beta anomer can be isolated, can be crystallized, but if you keep any one of the compound in a solution, this leads to equilibrium mixture where your beta anomer will exist in a major form, that is 63%, whereas alpha anomer will exist in the minor form, so that is 37%. This process, the moment you put this any one of either beta or anomer in the solution, this exists in equilibrium mixture. This process is called mutar rotation. rotations. For the beta NMR percentage is more, whereas the alpha NMR percentage is less. Next, next we are going to discuss about the reactions of monosaccharides. The reactions of monosaccharides. First, we will discuss about redox reactions of monosaccharides. For example, the redox is nothing but your oxidation plus reduction. All right, this is the reductions. For example, suppose if you take glucose, this is a glucose. So, if you reduce this one, because you have aldehate functionality, you can use either palladium carbon is a reducing agent to reduce this aldehate group, or you can use the mild reducing agent, that is sodium borohydride. You can use this one. So, if you use this one, it will reduce the aldehate group to alcohol. So, you will get CH2OH, again H and OH, OH, H, this is H and OH, again this is H and OH, this is CH2OH. So, this is your D-glucose, so this is D-glucitol, this is nothing but your alditol. So, if you reduce the carbonyl group, this leads to CH2OH. You can use either palladium carbon or sodium borohydride, that leads to the polyalcohol, that is nothing but glucitol. The glucitol is nothing but alditol. So, general name, whereas the specific name is glucitol. One more name for this, this can be called as a sorbitol, D-sorbitol. So, glucitol or D-sorbitol. Similarly, you can use fructose. We take fructose, this is structure of fructose. Since it has ketone group, this can be reduced by using sodium borohydride, that is a reducing agent. You can use methanol, ethanol as a solvent. So, this group converted into CHOH, because this is a ketone that leads to secondary, whereas aldehyde that leads to primary alcohol. Since we are creating extra chiral center, so you will get two components, that is CH2OH, either the second position, either H and OH, OH, H, OH, CH2 group. Here the OH on the right hand side, hydrogen on the left hand side, plus you will get one more compound, that is CH2OH. The OH can be on the left hand side, hydrogen on the right hand side. So, this is OH and H, this is H, OH, CH2. So, this is your D-glucitol, glucitol. So this is your D-mannitol. So these two are C2 epimers because the configuration differs at carbon 2, the second carbon. So here hydrogen OH, OH on the right hand side, here OH on the left hand side. The remaining configurations are same. So if you reduce the glucose, this leads to D-glucitol. If you reduce the sodium by using sodium borohydride, you will get two components. The one is D-glucitol, another one is D-mannitol. So this is the reduction of your carbohydrates. Next we will be discussing about reaction with bromine. Suppose you have a monosaccharides, that is glucose, OH, NH, this is HNOH and CS2OH. So in this, if you add bromine water, as you know, the color of the bromine water is a brown, right? So if you add bromine water in this, the bromine is an oxidizing agent. It will oxidize only the aldehyde group. So this leads to CHO. It's a mild oxidizing agent. This will oxidize the aldehyde to acid. So remaining HNOH, OH and H, HOH, HOH, this is CH2OH. So this gives, the common name is aldonic acid. Aldonic acid. See here the ON represents or gives information that only one group get oxidized. That's why it's only one N get oxidized. Only one N get oxidized means that gives aldonic acid. Since we are using glucose, this is gluconic acid. The common name is aldonic acid because the only one N get oxidized. So that's why this aldonic acid. The specific name is, this is glucose. This gives D-gluconic acid. Gluconic acid. So this is the test for to distinguish the bromine water is the test for distinguish aldose and ketose. Suppose the moment you add the bromine water in aldose, it will immediately oxidize this aldehyde group to acid. So the color of bromine will disappear. Whereas if you add bromine water in fructose, because there is a no oxidizable functional group, because this is a mild oxidizing agent, it won't oxidize the ketone as well as the hydroxy group. For example, suppose if you add the bromine water in D-fructose, it won't oxidize this any one of these functional groups. It will be, so if I add bromine water in this, the color of the bromine will persist for a long time. It means the reaction does not proceed if we add. So this is the one of the reaction to distinguish aldose and ketose. So if you add bromine water to the aldose, the aldehyde group which get oxidized to acid. Since one of the N get oxidized, this is commonly called aldonic. Here the ON is represent one N get oxidized. So this is a thing. Same thing, suppose if you add bromine water in fructose, the reaction does not proceed because it's a mild oxidizing agent. It won't oxidize the hydroxy as well as the ketone group that is present in. So here no reaction. no reactions. So with this information, I am going to teach you one more point, that is reducing sugar or non-reducing sugar. That is the most important. What is mean by reducing sugar and non-reducing? So for example, reducing sugar, non-reducing sugar. Suppose you take the monosaccharide, for example glucose, suppose if you add the Fehling solutions, for example Fehlings or Penectic Fehlings, so it will oxidize the aldehate to acid, am I right? Fehling solution will oxidize aldehate to acid. If it is oxidized this aldehate to acid, so these sugars or these monosaccharides can be called reducing sugar. The point is more important. If you add Fehling solution or Penectic solution, so if you add into the monosaccharide, if it is get oxidized, the aldehate functionality get oxidized, that is nothing but you are reducing sugar. Or the one more way, you can easily distinguish the reducing and non-reducing sugar. Suppose if you have free OH group on anomeric carbon, for example, if we have a free OH group on the anomeric carbon, so these sugars can be called reducing sugar. You can easily look at the structure based on the OH group that is present on the anomeric carbon. So you can say it's a reducing sugar. Suppose either it could be beta or alpha anomer. We have to see only the chemiacetal carbon, that is nothing but anomeric carbon. If the anomeric carbon contains free OH group, so the monosaccharide, the corresponding monosaccharides is called reducing sugars. Suppose if we have instead of OH, if we have some R group, it could be alkyl or aryl. So it is this compound does not have free OH group. So this is called non-reducing sugar, that we will discuss in disaccharides. So the basic difference is, if you have free OH group on the anomeric carbon, that is called reducing sugars. You can make a general statement, all monosaccharides are reducing sugars. All monosaccharides are reducing sugar. All, because you can the OH group free, you can find the free OH group in the anomeric carbon. So all monosaccharides are reducing sugar because it has free anomeric OH. Free anomeric free anomeric. So what is the basic difference? So if you want to know whether the sugar is reducing or non-reducing sugar, you just look at the anomeric OH. If it is free, it is a reducing sugar. If you don't have the free OH group, so definitely it will be a non-reducing sugars. So you can generalize the statement, all monosaccharides are reducing sugars. So monosaccharides, for monosaccharides, the oxidation, suppose if you use Tollens Fehling solution, for example, so this is Tollens reagent, that is nothing but your silver ammonium complex in the basic medium. So similarly you can use Fehling's, that is your copper sulfate solution. So in all the cases it will oxidize only the aldehyde to acids. So you will get, in both the cases you will get same compound, that is gluconic acid. So we will get gluconic acid. So D-gluconic acid. So in this case you will get the byproduct is Ag0, am I right? So you will get silver mirror, whereas in this you will get the red precipitate is nothing but, along with this one you will get the cupric oxide red precipitate. So the moment you add Tollens, this gives aldonic acid, that is nothing but gluconic acid plus silver mirror, whereas the moment you add the Fehling solutions, this gives again the oxidized product plus the copper oxide red precipitate as the, so you can easily distinguish by looking at the color. So this is a red precipitate. Now suppose if I take this glucose, if I use strong oxidizing agent, for example nitric acid, if I use nitric acid, so here the both aldehyde as well as the primary alcohol will get oxidized to aldaric acid. What is that? Aldaric acid. So H, OH, OH, H, OH, H. So you will get CO. So this is common name for this aldaric acid. Aldaric acid. Aldaric means both the ends get oxidized, am I right here? So both ends are oxidized to both. So this is both ends, this AR means both ends are oxidized to carboxylic acid, that is aldaric acid.